Welcome to Chamber Chats, a weekly series by the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce, highlighting our valued members. As always, find out more about the Chamber and our members online at westmonroechamber.org. Special thanks to our Season 2 title sponsor, Ouachita Valley Federal Credit Union. And now, this week's episode of Chamber Chats.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Chamber Chats. We're in the Mayor's Conference Room today, but I'm with one of my favorite people in West Monroe, Courtney Hornsby, the Chief of Staff for the City of West Monroe.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much. So many things happening in the City of West Monroe. Tell us a little bit, for starters, about your role as Chief of Staff.
Yeah, people ask me, what does a Chief of Staff do?
Yeah.
Well, I think that really does vary based off the municipality, but I really do a little bit of everything that is just needed. So
Sure.
It's not a defined role. I do have to say it's different every day, which makes that fun.
Sure.
But it's to be a liaison. It's to help the mayor get projects across the finish line. Just
Right.
to help to get things finished.
Interacting with the public, every dimension of the departments of the city.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely being a liaison to the
Yeah.
departments and
Yeah.
helping them. So the mayor's got, a lot of important meetings and people
Sure.
to meet with and projects that she's visioning. And it's like, okay, let's get these projects into implementation. And if you know anything about government, sometimes that's a lot of paperwork. That's a lot of dotting I's, crossing T's. And so just helping make sure that we get those things done to help turn her vision
Sure.
into making West Monroe a really great place to live into a reality.
And you're very much an executor. That's how we get along in that space.
Lots
for
of
sure.
list making.
Lots of list making. But before you were the Mayor's Chief of Staff, we share something in common. You were at the
Yeah,
Chamber.
I was.
Tell
yes.
a little bit about your time at the Chamber and then how you moved here.
Sure. So I was the chamber president,
Right?
director, whatever
Yeah.
you call the position, right? For 6 years. And I really didn't have any chamber experience before then. But previously, before that, I served at the city of Natchitoches for about 12 years. And I did a few different things there. I was their Main Street manager, led a lot of downtown development projects. I did their media, social media really wasn't a
Right.
thing then, but did their media, public relations,
Sure.
did some grant writing. I ended up running their convention center for a little bit,
Oh,
just a little bit of different things. And my husband decided, we'd already been married, already had children. Oh, he's going to be a preacher. So a little bait and switch, we like to say. He went from an accountant to a Methodist pastor.
That is a change of industry.
Majorly. And we're still married. So how about that? But
It's working so far.
in Methodism, at the time, you were itinerant. So you moved. And
Right.
you moved where they told you to move.
Sure.
And we went from Natchitoches to another location and then to West Monroe. He started at First Methodist West Monroe. And so the children and I followed him here. And we really, truly knew nothing about the community. In fact, I still commuted to Natchitoches for about 2 years after we
Oh,
moved
wow.
here. And the chamber position became open. And going back to a little bit of our roots, one of the board members, her name was Stacy Albritton at the time. And she said, I think you should do this job. We had gotten to know her through church and became
Sure.
friends with her. She was in line to be the chamber chairman. She's like, you should apply. And if you get it, I'll work closely with you. And I did.
And you just haven't stopped working
and we
closely
haven't
together.
stopped working closely together. So, and then my husband was actually, did her wedding. And so she became Stacy
didn't know that.
Albritton Mitchell.
Okay,
And
the world
so,
is small.
yeah. And so when she became mayor
Mhm.
and asked me to go to work for her, I was glad to do it. I was glad to get back to my municipal roots because
Sure.
I love working in municipal government. And that's been now over 6 years ago.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
now you have your church family at McGuire,
Yes.
and it just keeps growing.
Yeah, my husband's pastor at McGuire
Yeah.
Methodist on Arkansas Road. And so we have 3 children and we love living here in Ouachita Parish,
Sure.
but we love West Monroe.
Sure. What do you think it is about West Monroe that is so special? We talk about so many things, quality of life, the parks, so many things. What would you list as your key factors?
Yeah, I think there really is a strong emphasis on family. And
Mhm.
I felt that even since I was at the chamber. They're a small town, but they're not like other small towns that
That's
I've
right.
really been to. They're very proud of their community. There's a high sense of pride. And I know the high school and football
Right.
and some of the sporting have
Right.
a lot to do with that. But people are proud to live in West Monroe and they want West Monroe to do well. They're a little competitive, right? So
That's
they want to
okay.
be,
Just number one. That's
just
all it
number
is. It's
one.
just number one.
But they are very proud and they are very family oriented. And so there's a lot of pride in what we look like, pride in what amenities we offer. just pride in the place. And I think that's important wherever you live. You know, the old adage, bloom where you're planted.
Right.
Be proud of where you live, because we've lived in some other cities where there really is such a negative perception
Right.
about your community. There's nothing to do and there's nothing good going on. You know, you can say that anywhere you go, but there's
Right.
good everywhere you go too.
And I laugh all the time when people says there's nothing to do, and I go, well, we had 300 things on our calendar to try to do
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
So one of the things I think is so funny about West Monroe is everybody says they live in West Monroe, but in reality, West Monroe is a little bit small. It's 13,000 people.
Right.
We just have kind of squirrely city limits, maybe.
So if you live in the city limits,
Yeah.
you're right. So when people call often, and it doesn't
Right.
happen as much anymore, but when we first came here to
Yeah.
the mayor's office, they would ask about their water or another issue. We're like, do you live in the city limits?
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, of course we do. Let's check. No, you
No.
don't. So it's 8.5 square miles. It is much smaller than people think, but
Right.
a large part of the west side of the parish has a West Monroe address.
Right.
Their students, their children go to West Monroe High School. And so that's a neat part of the community because there is a true ownership. We'll have people say, oh, we voted for you, Mayor. I don't think you did, but thank you for your
I
support.
appreciate that.
And
yeah.
so people have to understand really what city limits, what's not. The
Right.
city of West Monroe doesn't control everything on the west side.
Right.
We're not the school system. We're
Right.
not the police jury. We have a great program called our Mayor's Youth Council, and it's interesting because during our first meeting of the new school year, we'll ask the students who lives inside the city.
And they all raise their hand.
Some of them do, and some
but
of them
a third of them are probably
and some of
not.
them don't.
Yeah.
And so it's their parents sit in
Sure.
on that meeting too. It's a great learning opportunity
Yeah.
for them as well.
We were talking about community assets. Something I think is so exciting is there's so many projects happening almost at once. And that's a little intimidating, I think, for anyone, but y'all seem to take it in stride. But there's a marina being built and the logistics of dealing with core and fish and wildlife and all those things, as well as we have a vibrant downtown and we're expanding trails at Crowley and on and so forth. That's a lot happening at the same
It is.
time. Yeah.
It is.
Talk a little bit about how the city leverages financial resources to make some of these projects a reality.
Yeah, and Chris, we have probably $30 million of infrastructure projects going on right now, which is, I can see the look on your face. It's a little bit
like the whole
mind-blowing
city
at
budget
times.
isn't
No, it's less
$30
than that,
million.
right?
Yeah.
And we've been really successful at working as a team, and,
Sure.
and through Mayor Mitchell's vision, how do we implement that? And
Right.
that's not taking dollars from the city budget, but it's about leveraging grants, and those could be state and federal. It could
Right.
also be regional or foundations, and coming from other
Right.
organizations. We do work with a lobbying firm that
Mhm.
have helped us really firm up our relationship on the federal level.
Mhm.
We've been able now to get appropriations from our congressman, and we've not been successful in doing that in years past. And now
Right.
we've got multiple appropriations projects. And one thing
In
to
works
understand,
are coming.
yes,
Yeah.
and that takes time.
It
So
does take time.
I know it's hard for people to understand, but especially with the federal government, these projects take years to come down because they flow through the state,
Sure.
then to local, and there's agreements that have to
Yeah.
be made, and engineering and all of those things. But we've got infrastructure projects throughout really all the districts of the city that are not just your quality of life. And because we do hear about streets and drainage and
Right.
water issues, those things are being addressed. You don't always see that work because
Right.
it's not as visible as redoing a trail at Caroli or
Mhm.
adding a new park. But those projects are happening. Some long overdue maintenance that we
Right.
really are working on, because that's the city's job, is to provide a safe, healthy community with good, solid infrastructure.
So when you see that sidewalk going in,
Mhm.
that might have been 8 years ago, and it's now worked its way through funding, matches, engineering, all the
Yeah.
compliance, and now pour concrete.
I know, isn't that sometimes
Yeah.
amazing to think like that? And it really depends on your funding agency.
Sure.
If it comes from federal, a lot of times it's going to be a lot longer. But there's some funding agencies that move so fast, within a year you're seeing it done.
Right.
You're seeing some projects now that we're getting some different monies from the state and things like that. For example, whenever this will air, we're working on North 3rd Street, right by the
Right.
OMV. That's a state appropriations. It's not capital outlay, it's
Got it.
appropriations. And that's a little quicker, a little
Yeah.
easier. And we're going to be able to get that street overlaid. I just rode on it the other day, and it definitely needs it. And so
Yeah.
all the people who are serviced by the OMV will now have a smoother road in
As a
which to drive.
result.
Right.
Well, and the
exactly.
city is also a menagerie. Talk about roads. You've got state, you've got the interstate, you have parish
Yes.
maintenancing up until a point.
That's right.
There's a lot of menagerie of who claims what.
It is. And so there's certainly a lot of education that has to happen for
Sure.
the public. And we do. I manage a lot of the social media, and I see a lot of the complaints. And people are mad about a certain street, or they want something done. And
Right.
for example, when Cypress Street was being torn up but overlaid, and it was very nice, people were mad at us, or why didn't you tell us? Why didn't we know?
Right.
We don't always know either. It's a state highway. We're
Right.
not always in the loop either. So you really have to know.
You may have a vague conception that DOT is about to do something, but not, oh, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, you have to know who owns what road
Right.
and street. And sometimes we still have to, it's
Yeah.
sometimes
What the
still
heck?
difficult for
Yeah.
us. I can only imagine that for the public who doesn't
Right.
know, it can be confusing sometimes.
How do we make sure the public is well informed about what's happening in the city?
Yeah, and this is where you take a little bit of ownership if you are a citizen. So the information is there and it's accessible. First of all, you can go to our website, cityofwestmonroe.com. It's constantly being updated with as things change, and sometimes it may be a little out of date, but we're constantly working to update it. So check the website. But we have a really robust social media presence that we didn't always have. And there are multiple pages inside the city of West Monroe in which to get information that includes the city itself, the parks and recreation. We've got police department, fire department. Through our website, you can sign up for a texting service. Of course, we send a lot of information through the chamber, so follow the chamber's social media as well.
Thank you for the shout out.
Absolutely, and we try to tag you on just about everything we do, because
it's an integration.
It is, and we do know that it's people. Of course, I'm going to say, and I used to be a reporter, we send things out, press releases to TV and radio and newspaper, but media has changed. It's not quite the same. So just because you don't see it on TV or you didn't see it in the newspaper doesn't mean it's not happening. We don't have, just to be honest, we don't have great marketing and advertising budgets. The city's not going to spend its tax dollars on billboards and things like that. But we do have social media. You can always, though, contact us. We're extremely accessible. The mayor's office, we have the mayor's office at email. You can call us. Our secretary is happy to take calls and answer information. But we tell people, get involved, find out what's going on.
Come to a council meeting, contact their alderman, get plugged in, and all that information is on the website.
Absolutely, and Facebook too as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Courtney, for a little insight into what's behind the scenes at the city and for all your diligent hard work that you're doing.
Thank you for being a great partner.
Well, you're very kind. Catch us next time on Chamber Chats as we highlight other members of our community and chamber partners.